What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to poker vlog number 4. Here with my big brother. He's never played a cash game before. We're gonna play the 1-3 here at Fortune Poker in Seattle, Washington. So really excited to get in there. Say whatever you want, dude.
Say whatever I want. It's my first time. Let's see how it goes. I'm not too nervous. We'll have fun. Let's try it out.
Yes, sir. All right, let's get right into it. Getting started here real fast with vlog number 4. My brother and I get sat down pretty quick, and we're gonna go ahead and get right into some action. I noticed right as I sit down at the table to the left of my brother, he is an action player, so I want to get tangled in with this player as much as possible. It's definitely going to be playing out in this first hand, so buckle up. We're looking down at ace queen offsuit from the low jack, and with no limps to me, I raise it up to 10. I get one caller, and it's the action player, and we're going heads up to a flop, which comes 6-5-2 rainbow. This is a relatively dry board where I'll be way ahead or way behind, so I check it on over to him, even though I could be betting to protect my hand. He goes ahead and bets 10, and I'm actually going to go ahead and see if I can take control of the pot, and I'm going to raise him up to 25. He's going to make the call rather quickly, and we're going to go ahead and see a turn and evaluate on what we want to do after that. The turn comes the 9 of diamonds, and I definitely think I could still be ahead a lot of the time, considering this was an action player and he could be playing with any 2 cards. I continue to tell the story that I have a strong hand, and I bet out for 30. He's going to think about it for a little bit, show me the 2 of hearts, and actually makes the fold.
Do you have a 3-6-5?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a 6-5?
I did not, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had a pair though, right?
I did have a pair.
You didn't raise pre-flop with 6-5?
I can promise you I didn't. I wanted to talk to the table and let them know that I had something really good, even though we didn't, so I can go ahead and build up an image on the table so we can go ahead and make some more moves in the future. Glad this one worked out, and happy to take down the first pot of the night. 2 shuffles later, we're looking down at ace deuce offsuit in the big blind. There's one limp to the button where he raises it up to 7. The small blind completes, I call, and the low jack calls as well. Going 4 ways to a flop, it comes king, king, deuce, rainbow. When the small blind checks it to me, I bet out for 7 to just get a little bit of feel for what's going on in this hand. Actually hitting a piece of this board, I think I could definitely be ahead a lot of these people. The low jack makes the fold, and now the button snap jams it all in when it's folded to him for about $50. The small blind's going to fold and get out of the way, and now I have a decision to make. He was the pre-flop raiser anyway, so I'm just going to give him the respect and fold this early in the session. Nice raise.
That's all I could do.
You had me beat. Nice hand. He flips over pocket dennies, and I'm just glad to get away from that one. I'm looking down from under the gun with 10-3 of spades, and I fold that garbage hand. This isn't about me. It's about my brother. Under the gun +1 limps. Josh, who's sitting in the cutoff, has pocket 5s where he limps as well, and both blind players are going to make the call. 4 ways to a flop, which comes 10, 10, 5. Josh flops a full house. Ooh! Look at that poker face. He's got this in the bag, well concealed. All players are going to check it on over to Josh, and Josh checks it back, and we're going off to a turn, which comes the queen of spades. I like the slow play, Josh. I definitely would have done the same, especially smashing this board. Everyone checks it over to him again, and he starts building this pot up a little bit by betting $5. The small blind and the low jack make the call, and they're going 3 ways to a river, which is the case 5. Josh Rivers quads. Holy moly, what a dream. The small blind checks it now for the 3rd time, and he gets some great news when the low jack bets 22. That's not enough for my boy, as of course he's got to go for some more value, and he... That's what I'm talking about. Get as much money as you can out of this hand as possible. The small blind instantly folds, and the low jack thinks about it for a little while before saying, The low jack goes all in for about 50 more. Josh snap calls it off and proudly shows his quads. The opponent flips over a 10, and what's even crazier is remembering back to the beginning of the hand, I folded the other 10 left in the deck. The low jack had the case 10 to hit the full house on the river, also giving Josh quads where he now is a contender to hold for the high hand. As long as his quads hold for 30 minutes, he's getting $500 his way. Both of us wait patiently, constantly checking the clock to see if it's finally going to run out, and then we eventually hear the noise that's music to our ears. Not only did he take down a sweet $212 pot, but he's also taking home an extra $500. Congrats, my dude. This next hand, I get into it a little bit with the man, the myth, the legend himself, the $500 winner, Joshua Washa, right across the table from me. He's in middle position and raises it up to 12, and I'm on the big blind with Jack 10 suited, and I'm going to make the call. Going heads up to a flop, becomes Ace, King, 6, 1 club. With my gut shot, straight draw, and backdoor flush draw, I'm just going to go ahead and check it on over to him, and he checks it back. His raising range is mostly going to consist of higher cards, or he could possibly have pocket sixes, but I'm just going to go ahead and evaluate on a turn. When the turn comes, a 2 of clubs, it now gives me 4 to the flush. I'm going to go ahead and start pumping money into this pot. I fire out for 12, and he makes the call. The river comes, the jack of spades, and with a little bit of showdown value, I'm going to check it on over to him. Josh bets out for 15, and it is such a good price. However, I did put him on higher cards than what I had in my hand, and I kind of just felt beat here, so I ended up making the fold. Later on after the session, he told me he had ace king for top 2 pairs, so glad I ended up making the fold there on the river. For the next hour and a half, 2 hours, I run rather cold as I get a decent amount of playable hands where I try to play them. I call some raises, see some flops, but it just doesn't go very well, and we end up losing about 150. So at this spot, I'm currently down about $200 after all these hands. During these times, it's really important to know that sometimes it's just out of your control and you just got to keep playing the best of your ability, even though it can be really frustrating sometimes. Next up, we got pocket fours in the small blind where the button raises the 10. I make the call hoping to set mine, and the big blind makes the call as well. 3 ways to a flop it comes. Ace 6 4 2 hearts. We were hidden in the mist and we hit the beautiful set. Normally on a decently connected board, especially with 2 of the same suit out there, I would be betting out here, but the player on the button who's the initial raiser seems to always bet when he's checked to, and I'm looking to check raise, so I end up making the check. Both players end up checking a behind, which is a little bit frustrating because I was hoping to get some more money in this pot, but that doesn't exactly happen, and we see a turn, which is the 7 of diamonds. Alright, it's time to put money into this pot. I lead out for $20, and both players basically make a snap fold, so this session really isn't going my way, and I'm hoping to turn it around. One way it can turn around though is make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much. The support is super appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Next hand, we're looking at ace 5 of diamonds from under the gun +1. I raise it up to 10. Low jack and the cutoff are going to make the call, and we're going 3 ways to a flop. We see jack 7 5 2 clubs, and hitting a piece of this board, I'm going to continue to bet out for 15. Both players are going to make the call, and that's a little bit alarming considering this definitely could be hitting their range, so I'm going to slow down on the turn when the queen of spades comes out and I check. The low jack checks, and now the cutoff bets out for 45, and this was not a super great price for me to continue to hit. Basically 6 outs on the river. I end up making the fold. The low jack makes the fold as well, and let me know in the comments if you guys would have done the same here. I know he was betting about 3/5 to about 3/4 pot here with 45 into 79. I also didn't want to be overplaying my bottom pair. However, there was a lot of open-ended straight draw possibilities as well as the obvious flush draw on the flop. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys would have done the same. Finally, looking down at a premium, we got the ladies in the low jack. Under the gun +1 limps, so I raise it up to 15 where only the button's going to call. We're going heads up to a flop, which comes jack, jack, 10, 2 spades. I continue to bet here for 15, and he ends up making the fold. Slowly but surely, we can hopefully get out of this hole. In this next hand, I raise with Jack 10 and end up missing the flop. In the next hand, I raise with Ace 10, get a few callers, and I try to c-bet on the flop and get jammed on for about 50 more. Things really just aren't looking too great, but you know what? I still have hope that it can turn around. Next up, we got Ace 4 of diamonds on the button where I raise it up to 10 and the small blind jams all in for a little over 50. This is the same player that did this when I had Ace 10 in the last hand, and I wasn't really sure what to think as I had decent card removal and I could be flipping with some others, but I would be at a coin flip at best, and I didn't want to do that. It didn't seem like a profitable call, so I just make the fold. After a rather card dead and frustrating session, we're finally looking down at another premium, and hopefully we can get some action. Buckle up your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen. This one gets wild. We have Ace Queen offsuit in the big blind with 3 limps to me. We all know the saying, only simps make the limps. All right, so we're going to go ahead and raise it up to 21. All 3 limpers make the call, and we're going 4 ways to a flop, which is king, king, jack, 2 clubs. Small blind checks on over to me, and this is my boy Chris, who I ended up meeting here at Fortune Poker, and he was giving me a lot of awesome and great tips while playing throughout this time and a previous session. I listened to what he says, and I'm going to go ahead and make a lot more c-bets from here on out, and that's exactly what I do here, and I continue to bet for 25. It's definitely a scary board, but also having the queen of clubs as one of the club removers as well as a gut shot and 1 over, I think I'm sitting with a decent amount of equity on this board. However, when the low jack and the small blind make the call, I do have a little bit of alarm bells going off as someone could definitely have a king or a jack. I'm most likely going to be going into shutdown mode from here on out, except when the turn comes out the ace of spades. This gives me a lot of showdown, so when the small blind checks it to me, I check and the low jack does the same and checks as well. I'm also doing this check even though I did improve on the turn. I just want to pot control and get to the river as cheaply as possible. That plan's definitely going to change when we see the river, the 10 of spades giving us a straight. Chris in the small blind checks it on over to me, and I definitely think that someone could still be holding a king. However, I was a little confused that none of them bet the turn. So now here on the river, I'm going to be betting for value for about 2/3 pot, and I'm going to go out and bet 100, or at least I thought it was 100. My stacks were off, and it was actually 95. The low jack snap folds, and Chris goes into a deep tank. He says aloud all of the different hands I could possibly have, and he's really going through if he should make the call. The longer I sit there, the more I want him to call, as I definitely knew he didn't have a full house, or he could have trips, or 2 pair, or any of the sort. Eventually, we get some great news as he says, I show him the bad news, and we take home an almost $350 pot. He ends up telling me a little bit later that he had ace jack offsuit. It's great to know we definitely had him on the turn. However, we absolutely sucked out on him and hit the straight. He also mentioned that because of the other player calling on the flop, he was going to raise me if he didn't. So very glad it worked out in my favor. With this hand, we're for the first time finally in the positive for about $35. Only 3 shuffles later, we got the ladies again in the hijack. I raise it up to 15 and I get 3 callers, and the flop comes out 2-2-3 rainbow. All players check it to me, and I'm trying to get some value, so I continue to bet for 25. Only the small blind makes the call, and we're going heads up to a turn, which is the 9 of diamonds. He checks it to me again, and I'm going to practice a little bit of pot control, and I'm just going to check it back. He did only have about $110 left in his stack, so maybe I should have just tried to play for all of it, but in this case, I just checked. The river peels off, and we see the 5 of hearts, where he instantly bets out for 50. My initial reaction was the snap call, but I was also trying to think, what can I also be getting a little bit of value from? The only thing I'm really losing to is going to be a set, which is now a full house, or trips, but they would have had to flop it. And what's he going to be calling with? Ace 2 maybe? So I really thought I was good here no matter what. The only thing is, should I just jam it all in and try to get as much value as possible? I ultimately came down to the decision to just make the call, and it was the right one because he had ace 10 offsuit, and I feel like we wouldn't have gotten any more value from him if I just jammed. Glad to take another one home where we're finally chipping up. Coming in hot with the last hand of the night, we have pocket nines in the low jack, and I raise it up to 10, where only the cutoff and the button make the call. 3 ways to a flop becomes queen 8-3, 2 spades. I want to protect my hand against any sort of draw here, so I continue to bet for 10, where the cutoff folds and the button makes the call. In hindsight, I definitely should be sizing up to at least half pot. But that's alright, I'm going to continue to make a lot of mistakes here on the vlog, and just to show you guys, I'm human, I'm just trying to make some sweet content for y'all to enjoy. The turn comes the 2 of spades completing the front door flush draw, and with that in mind, I just check it on over to him to see what he does. He checks it back, indicating to me that he doesn't really have a flush. A lot of people in 1-2 and or 1-3 are going to be playing pretty standard. The river comes a board pairing 3, which is actually a pretty decent card, giving me 2 pair, and it's going to scare any sort of flush. I just want to get the showdown cheaply though, so I check it on over to him, and he bets out for 25. I've seen him do this exact action in the previous hand when he had ace 10 and he was bluffing, so I just make the snap call, and we get the bad news when he flips over queen jack offsuit. I like my play as I knew he didn't have the flush, however he just happened to have the queen this time. I do like my call as I felt like I could have been good a lot of the time, especially against this player, but he ends up taking this pot, and that's going to be the last hand of the session.
All right, first time in the casino, up 900.
He was in for 200, out for 1100. First time at the casino.
First time ever. I'll take it, honestly. I mean, I was running really hot. You'll see it in some of the hands, but
yeah, Josh
my
hit the
God.
high hand, held for $500 with quad 5s. That was exciting.
I have not hit quads in
ever.
Yeah, you know how it is.
It was cool. I was in for 500, out for 488, so a tiny loss, but glad I only lost 12, so that was cool. Josh made a killing today.
That's a new computer right there, boys.
Yeah,
new computer.
Get a gaming laptop, and he's going to play some video games at work. Nice. So we are out of here, and we will be coming with another one shortly.
Later, guys.
Peace.